welcome. Thank you for joining us to this sixth session of our Organic Waste Network and Educational Program in Belize. My name is Diana Rodriguez, and I'm a Senior Waste Policy Associate at the Center for Clean Air Policy, or CCAP. We are, along with Implementasur, one of the two strategic partners implementing the Recycle Organics program, which is working in 6 countries in the Caribbean and in the Pacific regions. As you know, this project is Change Canada, for these sessions of webinars and the network of educational program in Belize is a part of the Recycle Organics program in the Caribbean and in Belize. So I welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's nice to see everyone here again today.
Here at BRWMA,
we will start today with our agenda. So let's see the next slide. If you can
Aren't you
set the
seeing it?
slides
No?
in the...
It's
No.
not in the... Okay, give me 1 second.
But as we solve this, oh, perfect. Now you see it. This is the agenda for today. And as you know, from our invites during these last few weeks, this in action, how they some projects that will show us how they're leading the organic waste transformation. So we are very excited to have presentations from Kenya, from Brazil, and from the Belize Recycling Waste Management Association of Belize. So within our agenda then, as you can see here, we'll start with the example of Brazil, supporting waste pickers in organics recycling. Then we'll move to the Kenya case, improving the capacity of waste pickers to reduce methane emissions. And then we'll have an intervention by the association in driving sustainable development through waste management. And we'll go to a Q&A session, and we'll have a final Mentimeter to measure a little bit what we learned, what other comments you have, and we'll have some closing remarks. Remember, a section of the do so throughout the sessions, and we'll bring those up during the Q&A session. Great. So we'll start the session then. I'll give the floor to my colleague, Maria Paula Vizcardo, who's going to introduce our first speaker. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. And thank you all for joining us today. This is, as Diana mentioned, our 6th session, so we are super glad that you met today. So are you seeing the next slide, right?
Bye. Talk to you later. Bye. Take care. Bye.
Oh, sorry. Are you seeing the next slide of life? Yeah? Okay, good.
Yes.
So we will present our first speaker, an international one. She is Laís Ferreira dos Santos. Is an oceanographer from the Federal University of Paraná and works within the Solid Waste and Agroecology team of the Police Institute for the Brasil Composta Cultiva platform. Her work focuses on waste management, organic recycling, and climate change. She is also active in the Sao Paulo Composta Cultiva campaign and contributed to the study new composting models in cities integrating recycling, agriculture, and housing. So the floor is yours, Laís, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for the kind invitation. It's a real pleasure to be here with you all today and to take part in this important conversation. My name is Laís Ferreira. I'm part of the team at Polis Institute, based in São Paulo, Brazil, where I work on solid waste and agroecology projects. You may not know me personally, but if you ever heard about the innovative work that waste pickers have been doing in Brazil when it comes to organic waste management, you probably come across the work part of my team. So today I'd like to share some reflections and experience from our work with composting and organic waste management, especially about supporting waste pickers and organic recycling, and how composting is becoming a tool of empowering and strengthening cooperatives and independent waste pickers in this agenda. Before I begin, I just want to say that I am Brazilian, so English is not my first language. So please don't hesitate me to let me know if anything that I said isn't clear. I will be really happy to repeat or explain it better. And before I start, I just want to take 2 minutes to talk a little more about who are Polis. Polis is an organization that have 38 years defending the right to the city. It's our organization is committed to promote cities with social, environmental, and climate justice, aiming a decent life and good living for present and future generations. So we try to do our best by doing some projects in the social, environmental, and climate, territorial, race, and gender access. And we are trying to face some problems right now in Brazil, especially in the waste sector. Can we do to the next slide, please? And basically, right now we have a huge problem in the waste sector in Brazil, because every year in Brazil we generate between 65 and 75 million tons of solid waste. So this is collected every year, and basically half of this is organic, but only 0.3% is composted. It's having a good and adequate treatment, what means that most of the solid waste collected ends up in dumps or landfills. On the right, you can see a map showing how our waste is currently disposed across the country. The areas in red represented open dumping, which still unfortunately very common here. And in green is where waste is sent to landfills. And these green areas is also the most dense populated areas and reaches also. So as you can see, there's still a large portion of the country relying on very low standard disposal methods, and this situation contributes to Brazil being one of the 4th to 5th largest methane emitters in the world right now, which is concerning given methane's high global warming potential. And next slide, please. And this is the scenario of Brazil. It's a brief view. So we have been dealing with half of the solid waste generated in Brazil in a better form, but we are still not in there yet. But we have some difficulties to face, because the majorities of the municipality has a low economic and financial capacity. So normally the municipalities don't have a huge budget to deal with the waste management on the city. And we also have like a huge resistance from old models that went wrong in the cities. So we are trying to dealing with that. But besides the scenario, next slide, please. We still have a lot of different models growing up in Brazil, not only in composting, but also in anaerobic digestion and we have like different methods also. I believe this is like a growing moment of composting in Brazil right now. So we have like a lot of business models that relies on home composting and passively piles and windrows that can be turned or not in automated system. And these business models, basically the most popular ones right now is the public one, the public home composting, and the private decentralized, and the public-private partnership. And we also have the waste pickers, which is our focus right now. Next slide, please. And as Polis, we in the last year, we have seen waste pickers becoming and being integrated in the policy of the waste agenda. So in the last years, doing some work of mapping which experience in Brazil that are led by waste pickers, farmers, and household leaderships. It's growing, and how they are managing with the organic waste of the city. And we have already like good results, because we know already that cooperatives can provide service of collecting, transporting, sorting, selling recyclables, but also composting organics, and sometimes disposing their waste on landfills. And we have done research, which was that one, the the folder, but we unfortunately don't have this study in English yet, but we have in Spanish, in Portuguese. So if you want, you can have this from Brazil. We have mapped like more than 15 experience, but we have done interviews and collect some data from 8 of them. But I brought some interesting cases to share with you. The first example is this from the south of Brazil, in the municipality of Santa Cecília do Sul, which is Copercicla, is a waste cooperative that manages an integrated system. They work basically with waste pickers, and they are responsible for the collection, the transport, the sorting, and the sale of recyclables, and also the composting of organic waste. And they serve 21 municipalities. So they do all this work from 21 municipalities. Right now, the cooperatives handle already around 1,300 tons of mixed solid waste. Out of 390 tons are organic waste directed to composting. I'm not sure if you can see. For me, it's a little blurry, but this is the data, and I can share the slides after also. The system that they use a combination of mechanical recovery and biological treatment, and their operational costs is basically 120 Brazilian reais per ton, and they produce like around 135 tons of compost each month. We know that this compost is has a different quality, because they come from a mixed collection, but they have some standards and tests like monthly to have like the most quality of stabilized material that they can have. And this is one of the great examples of scale materials and various functions in one waste picker cooperative. Next slide, please. The next case come from the northeast of Brazil, in the municipality of Entre Rios, in Bahia. Verticop, it's also a cooperative, that focus on composting organic waste collected selective from large waste generators such as supermarket, institutions, and hotels. And because of this source control, their reject rate is very low, like 10%. Right now, the organization has 26 members, but 6 of them are dedicated exclusively for composting activities, and they handle around 108 tons of organic waste per month using a mechanized composting method. And their operational cost is about 170 Brazilian reais per ton. And this is also a great example of how the source of waste, like the selecting of source of organic waste and working with large generations, can improve the quality of materials and reduce the contamination, which makes the composting process more efficient. In this the next slide, we are moving now to Brasilia, to a pilot project where we are helping Centcop to build a strong model focused on composting organic waste from street fairs and large generators. Centcop is the second largest cooperative central for waste pickers in Brazil. They work basically with more than 50 cooperatives and have about 1,000 waste pickers associated in Brasilia. So our idea is to promote this project that involves not only the construction and operation of a composting facility by the waste pickers, but also try to reducing the landfill disposal and producing a high quality compost from the organic waste collected. And the idea is the facility to has a capacity to process 260 tons of organic waste per month. Not in the beginning, but like our biggest dream after some time of experience. And what is especially important about this model, it's basically the financial structure that we are trying to implement, because our idea is to Centcop receives a payment for service through a formal contract with Brasilia's urban cleaning service, as well as from the large waste generators. So our idea is that their income come from this formal contract and also by the selling of composted fertilizer. And this could be a good example of how public service contracts can provide financial sustainability and for composting with waste pickers. In the next slide, I don't have time to show now, but I truly recommend that you come see after the video of Aline Souza in TED. Last year, Aline was the president of Centcop, and TED Talk invited her to talk a little more about the view of waste pickers in the organics agenda. And it's really not only besides only working with waste pickers and trying to empowering them, it's also important to give them a space to speak and hear from them, like their experience and their ideas, and have they really close to this strategies moments. So I really recommend that you go search for this video after. You can pass, please. And this next slide also have some good examples and some good conclusions of how composting with waste pickers has been like successful in Brazil. In the left, we can see a comparison of two of the case studies that I have brought, which is Verticopy Ecopercicla. It's not this graphic, it's not only about the organic waste, but also the municipal solid waste that the two cooperatives monthly. And this data is important because basically 79% of Brazilian municipalities right now have don't generate more than 250 tons of compostable organic waste per month, which means that many cities produce quantities of organic waste similar to the cities on Verticop and Copercicla, which proves that these two cooperatives, these two waste pickers cooperatives, could deal not only with the organic waste from the cities, but that the waste pickers cooperatives could also have a scalable and adaptable system to manage the organic waste of smaller cities. And of course, when we are talking about of waste or organic waste system and waste pickers cooperatives, we cannot only talk about the capacity of composting, but also it's important to highlight that composting with waste pickers right now generates more jobs and source of income than public composting and landfilling. Right now, composting with waste pickers generates twice as many jobs to public composting and 10 times more jobs than landfilling. And we also need to recognize the social profile of this workforce, because we have like a diversity of leadership in this waste pickers cooperatives. So we have about 56% of cooperatives waste pickers are 70 according to this. So when we are talking about composting with waste pickers, we are also talking about systems that have like both environmental efficient and socially just. And next slide, please. And with that, I just want to highlight some of our recent progress and impact that composting with waste picker has had in Brazil, that thanks to a combination of national policy and funding. In the last year, we had important investments from the national government to support the involvement of waste pickers in organic waste recycling, not only directly to the cooperatives, but also with some laws incentives. And we also have more than 30 municipalities that have already received some funds to speakers in the waste management system of the city. Next slide, please. And with this this impact, we also have like some concrete outcomes, like we have 35 waste organization that is already working with organic waste, and we have also 79 waste pickers cooperatives supported, and the last calls for proposals to work with organic waste recycling. Next slide, please. And we also have some legislation and incentives in Brazil right now. We have the National Solid Waste Policy that already include the organic waste as a economic asset with social value and income to promote citizen. We also have the Pro Catador decree right now that basically established that composting is a social technology when it's done by waste pickers. And we also have the law on public and administrative contracts that says that bidding it's waived for contracts who are made with the waste pickers cooperatives. So the license is not something that it's needed to the cooperative be contracted by some municipality. Next slide, please. So with that, we have a few challenges and opportunities. So as challenges, we have, first of all, the investment, because we know that the beginning of this type of organizations and experience is very difficult. So the initial investment it's complex, but also the environmental education and raising awareness among the population with this, and also the technical assistance and infrastructure. But we have some opportunities by promoting these decentralized solutions, such as generating more jobs and new source of income for waste speakers, strengthening this category and expanding the existing organizations, and also promoting more efficient communication between the residents, the population, and the waste speakers. Next slide, please. And only to wrap up everything that I was talking, we have some conclusions. So we know that we need to rethink management beyond the conventionally private logic, because we need to have more decentralized systems that can have sustainable efficiency. We also need to identify the different realities between the investment stuff, because some experience may need more investment in the beginning, and other may need some investment to the operational phase. We also have to find some different strategies to find the financial sustainability to the operation. Next slide, please. And it's also important to hire waste speakers in local organizations and pay for their service provided in organic waste management. We know that this first step to work with the organics could be challenging, especially because of technical system, but it's something that we can manage with time and support, and also the investment, that it's really important that the federal support have some investment on the municipalities that don't have the economic sustainability to the system. And slide, please. And if you have any doubts, or if you want to know a little more about these case studies and read other experience in Brazil, I invite you to visit our website, Composta Cultiva. We have the website in English. Not all the studies are in English yet, but we are working on, so feel free to explore. Next slide. And thank you so much for the attention, the time, and I hope that we can talk a little more after.
Understanding better about cooperatives and how they can work in other countries, and how you are organizing with them. The different organic waste initiatives were crucial for this webinar, so thank you for being here. We have our next speaker now, Now I can see you, Dorothy. Thank you for joining us, and thank you because it's late in Kenya. So I will present you briefly Dorothy Andiamo Tieno. She's an environmental scientist specializing in environmental law with experience in tackling environmental pollution and addressing waste management challenges. Is currently the program officer at the Center for Environment Justice and Development, where she's leading the plastic and waste management program. Over the last 7 years, for implementation zero waste free circular economy at the national, regional, and international governance levels. She has and continues to support communities impacted by plastic and waste pollution. For example, coastal communities and waste pickers to organize and call for their environmental and social justice against exposure to the toxic chemicals and waste. So really nice to meet you, Dorothy, and we hope we can learn a lot from this presentation. The floor is yours now.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to meet you all. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for those who are joining us from this part. Next slide, please. Right, so today I'm going to be talking about improving the capacity of waste pickers to reduce methane emissions, and I'm going to be discussing it in the context of Kenya. And next slide, I will start by just the role of waste pickers. Sorry, I'll start by talking about. So Center for Environment, Justice and Development is a public interest non-governmental organization that was formed in 2012. Our mission is to promote sustainable chemicals and waste management for the betterment of human health and the environment in general. We do this through various programs, the first one being plastics and waste management, which I lead. And within the program, we are pushing for elimination of persistent organic pollutants, that is open burning, and the use of chemicals in plastics and other wastes or materials. We're also advocating for zero waste systems, and we are largely supporting the waste pickers formalization in the country. We are also our campaigns are also about phasing out highly hazardous pesticides, various other programs about elimination of the use of mercury in gold mining, in products such as cosmetics and lamps, phase out in using dental amalgam. And the last is about ozone and climate. But today I'm going to be next slide, please. So because the role of waste pickers is well researched and well studied, I will just mention this quickly because the work of supporting waste pickers to formalize largely impacts them in organic waste projects that we've been implementing together. So first of all, it is well understood that in developing countries like ours, say Kenya, for example, the municipal only handles about 40% of waste collection for the households, but waste pickers handle 60 to 70%. So we are looking at a great contribution of waste pickers that cannot be ignored, even though sometimes it normally is. And we understand that because it's 60% of waste pickers who do collection, there's also some aspect of employment that they are creating or waste picking is creating to people who do not have access to other jobs. We know that they enhance reduction, reuse, cycling. This is because for the studies that we've conducted here, we've seen that recyclers themselves don't have the capacity to go to the ground to collect materials, and therefore they rely largely on waste pickers to do that. And these are all recoverable materials, including organic waste. For organic waste, we've also seen that the pig farmers really depend on waste pickers to collect for them organic waste and give them to feed their pigs. So this is a big sector that they're supporting, that they need to be recognized for that. That is about the support that they bring to the county and municipal budgets, in the sense that there's an element of reduction of waste that goes into the dam site. So they reduce the cost of expansion because materials are removed from the dam sites and brought back into the economy. But also we've seen the 60% that waste pickers are collecting really helps the municipalities to reduce the cost, which they would have otherwise incurred to collect in that area of 60% that waste pickers are doing. And lastly, we just know that their role sometimes is very environmental, because then they reduce the environmental and public health by moving waste from the communities and taking them to central locations. Sometimes in our cases, these are dump sites, and other places it's landfills, and other places is composting facilities, but just a central place where that waste is destined to be by removing it from the communities. And therefore, with this understanding, we understand that waste pickers play a very integral role in not only general waste management, but of course also organic waste management. Next slides, please. The next slide. Yes. So our work in supporting waste pickers formalization in Kenya started in 2021. And during this time, we had undertaken a baseline survey to understand how waste pickers currently work. Were they working in groups? Were they working individually? What were they doing together? Where did they need support? And we felt that based on the feedback that waste pickers gave us, they said they needed support to formalize and organize. So to the stage to this, and the reason why we're supporting to enhance their legal status and collective action. It's because when we have spoken to local governments over a period of time, there's that understanding in practice that waste pickers exist and they are seen to do the good job, the roles that I've just discussed earlier. But legally speaking, the counties have admitted that they don't recognize them because of that legal paper that's needed, a certification of some kind. And therefore, this is where we've come in to help them close this gap by assisting them to formalize and coming together. The other is about improving their welfare and working conditions. We know that, waste pickers, for example, in the first image, this is a section of a dump site. And therefore, that is where they work, but that nobody deserves to be working in such a place. And therefore, through the collective action, waste pickers can call on other opportunities, for example, working in material recovery facilities, working in composting facilities, working or being integrated in extended producer responsibility systems. Either way is to use this voice when it's just discussions that relate to policy and their implementation. So for a long time, we have seen this where speakers have not been included in any discussions, whether it's the management of organic waste or any other type of waste, but any decisions as it regards to waste management will negatively impact them. And therefore, our thought is that waste pickers have to be included in these spaces, and this is what we have been supporting them to do. So quickly, I'll go through the achievements so far, is that we have 3 formalized waste pickers associations in 3 jurisdictions. Waste management is the function of a local government, and we have that in 3 counties. We've also increased our work. Now we are covering 8 counties. Kenya has 47 counties, and ours is slowly, gradually aiming to reach to the 47 counties. In the meantime, we're at 8. And because of this work, there has been improved collaboration between waste pickers and county officials, because county officials call them for cleanups, tree planting activities. The waste pickers also provide some sort of community monitoring in terms of security in the dump sites. Waste pickers have reported that there's reduced stigmatization because communities also have understood their roles. And I'm coming to organics very shortly. Also see waste pickers are diversifying. They are now moving into organic waste. Initially, it really was focused on plastic waste or metals or the dry waste. But now a lot of discussion is shifting to organic waste, also because many municipalities have admitted that they have not had the capacity to manage organic waste, and that they see that these are opportunities also for speakers to come in. And so those are some of the areas that we have been going into broadly. And among other opportunities is just waste speakers to move from dump sites to go into household collections, because that is where great impact will be happening. And I'll be talking about that shortly. We have seen a lot of increase in policy engagements. In the last photo is waste speakers in Kenya engaging the executive director of UNEP. And this was in the process of the plastics treaty negotiation, just because waste pickers are calling for a just transition. And we believe that that just transition also includes other sources of income other than plastics, which is the center of the negotiation in that meeting, and looking at an alternative source of income for waste pickers. And then there's increased integration of implementation of zero waste, especially organic waste. So I started by talking about the formalization, because when we supported the waste pickers to formalize, we had a better understanding of who they are. And in that sense, we are able to systematically integrate them into our organic waste projects. So now that we have done that, we can move to the next slide so that I can demonstrate how we have been working with them. Next slide, please. All right, so our work on organic waste management started a few years ago, and so far we are progressing well. We started with a legal review because we wanted to understand our legal framework in Kenya. How is organic waste managed in the country? Do we have laws that support that? Because we know without laws, it's very difficult for anything to progress unless it's very voluntary, and voluntary can be very challenging. And so we looked at all our laws and we saw that we have a new act, and that says that households should be separating their waste. And so there's goodwill in terms of law in making sure that waste is separated and organic waste can be properly managed. We also conducted a practice and needs assessment. And this was done for waste pickers and also local government officials, because we wanted to understand, okay, so we have been reporting, or we've had that organic waste is not managed, or is rather not a center stage management within the counties. Many waste pickers depend on other type of dry waste. Why not organic waste? And they told us that they have so many needs, including capacity. They want infrastructure. They want places where organic waste can be conducted. So it was good to have this understanding. And the county officials were also saying, we need the capacity, we need the infrastructure, and all of that. So there was sort of like convergence in what was needed to successfully manage organic waste. And these are some of the, based on this needs assessment, is what advises us on how to progress. Over a period of time, our focus program has focused really on building the capacity of waste pickers. We would never have underestimated the role of waste pickers' knowledge in the work that they do. For instance, we have trained them on zero waste principles in general, but also there's a specific aspect of organic waste, and teaching them the relationship between organic waste and methane emissions, and the linkage between organic waste, methane emissions, and climate change, all of that, so that they can understand. And so when they go to teach households how to separate, they come from a place of understanding of the matter, and they can convince households to separate. Which goes to my fourth point, which is on household support, where as a project, as an organization, we supported households with providing them with bins, albeit small, but the waste pickers are the ones who then would facilitate, because they're the ones who work with the households. So the waste pickers are the ones that gave households these bins and then taught the households how to separate, because they're the ones who go there every week. And in that sense, they're able to also monitor how households are separating the waste and reteach them again. So in the sense, waste pickers also offer community monitoring of how laws are being implemented by households. Next slide, please. Next slide. Right. So what are the role of waste pickers in organic waste management? In our context, we started only recently, but what are some of the things that we have seen waste pickers doing? So the first is household training. So according to our law, households are supposed to be separating their waste, but they're not doing that. And it is very challenging for maybe a local government to invite trainers from outside to go and train households, because that will cost a lot more compared to when we teach waste speakers, and waste speakers can therefore teach households. So what we have found to be most effective is therefore teaching waste speakers about all this organic waste, methane emissions, climate change, and enabling them to go and teach households. And that has been very successful, because then they can monitor all of that. And so aside from that monitoring, there's also an aspect of collection. So because waste pickers benefit more when households separate their waste, because they can get materials very easily, they dry easily and the organic easily and not contaminated. Therefore, it's easy for them to collect and add value to this products. And what we have seen since we integrated waste pickers in the system is that households are actually implementing household separation, including of organic waste, better because there's somebody who's always coming weekly to check about that implementation. We're also seeing mass education campaigns. The waste pickers themselves decided that, we are dealing with waste that is not necessarily ours, and we need to go and teach households. Yes, we can do house to house like they have done before, but this time they wanted to do a mass education campaign, which was wonderful because then they can pass the message quickly to many people in the community. The other thing that they did is they told us that they wanted to do composting and the rearing of black soldier flies, even though small scale, but it's from these small scale projects that we're able to scale. And now they are able to rear this. They have an understanding of how to do that. And because of this, they're also increasing the availability of nutritious food to the community that is not necessarily reliant on fertilizer, but uses the compost that they produce. And next slide, please. Right. And therefore, based on all of these things, on all of these activities that we are seeing, there are some recommendations that we are able to give. And these recommendations cut across to you and also to us, that while we are scaling up, these are some of the things that we have been able to see and we'll focus on more. And that is, the first is that there is need for policy formulation that will require separation at source. Because we know that without separation at source, the materials become extremely contaminated and it's very difficult for them to be certified. Waste pickers also have a challenge to sort because it takes a lot of time. Waste pickers will always find this policy or this law very helpful because then it will support them in community monitoring. Without the law, if a waste picker goes to a household and asks a household to sort waste, then the household, based on what? And because behavior change seems like is an extra effort. So if it is in law and waste pickers only go and tell them about what is in law, the chances of household separating becomes more, and waste pickers are able to get cleaner materials, including organic waste, which they effectively compost without wasting time in sorting it out from other waste. We're also looking at our recommendation is to continue to build the capacity of waste pickers, because waste pickers actually perform better with more knowledge and understanding of that which they're doing. And so continue to teach them about benefits of waste separation, the linkages between waste separation, organic management, and methane mitigation, and really emphasizing the role of waste pickers themselves. And this is important because when we're looking at reducing stigmatization, we understood that the waste pickers were feeling the stigma because they didn't understand their position in society. They didn't understand the role that they played. But as soon as we told them, because they've already been doing that, we just let them know that it was important. Therefore, the perspective on themselves and also the community towards them really shifted. And so this training helps with that when they go to the household, they are seen as experts. And this can only happen if they have that understanding. We are also saying that we need to recognize and really emphasize the role of waste pickers in managing organic waste and mitigating methane emissions. Therefore, they should know their role better, and this helps to implement the project. For community engagement, we are saying that waste pickers should be the ones who go to households to teach them how to separate waste and to teach them about organics management, because this gives better outcome. There's a better outcome if community waste pickers go and do that themselves. And I think that they're advising that, so when waste pickers go to households to teach them, then they should be properly compensated, because then if it was an example like myself going to teach a household, I would be paid, and therefore we are requesting that they be paid fairly also for doing that job, and it will get better outcome. Another recommendation is on infrastructure and operational support. And I see that the previous presenter was showing really nice photos and project scale-ups that have been done. And this is fantastic. And this is somewhere that, as Kenya, we want to get to that place where waste pickers have been designated as space for composting and value addition, because even though there's willingness among the waste picker side, there could be challenges with opportunities for spaces to do that implementation. So now that we have focused on initially on the soft areas like the legal understanding, the capacity building, now there is readiness and appetite for implementation on the ground. And this can only be done if there are spaces provided for speakers to be able to do this. And then aspect is quality assurance. This has also been mentioned by the previous speakers about how waste speakers need to be supported to be able to, by the standards bodies, to be able to see what is the quality of organic waste that is produced, what is the standard of the black soldier flies that is produced. And this is something that we are also supporting them with, is that whatever goes to the market needs to be of good standard. So this is areas where we emphasize. There's also the financial support, because it becomes very expensive. Waste speakers need subsidies so that they can, when we are trying to create a value chain in the organic waste management, we need waste speakers goods to be subsidized so that they can sell more of it, so that more value is created. Over time, communities will appreciate more the organic fertilizer and the organic compost, but in the beginning, they need to be supported so that they are affordable and communities can begin to buy that. And lastly is government recognition. They need to be supported, acknowledging their vital role. And municipalities, and we have seen a lot of this lately, is that municipalities have come to the point of understanding that to really solve organic, we need waste speakers to be the ones to help us to collect and to compost. And so that recognition from municipalities is absolutely vital. And as we move to the implementation phase, large-scale implementation, these are some of the areas that we're going to harness more on. Next slide, please. Oh, right. So I have come to the end of my presentation, and I would appreciate any questions regarding to our context. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy, and thank you for being connected this late for you. I'm sorry, but my internet connection is kind of slow, so that was why I was having some troubles to going through the slides. But many thanks, and your intervention was super interesting and worked really well with Lai's presentation. So we have now different recommendations, barriers, new approaches for cooperatives and waste speakers. So now we will ask you, as all the sessions, to turn off, please, to turn off your cameras so we can take a picture of all of us today. Please remind that we are giving a certification of participation in the case that you are participating in most of the sessions and that you have been interacting with the speakers and also making some questions. So please, if you can now turn on your cameras so we can see all of you now, and we can take a good picture from all of us. Give me 1 second. I will try to stop sharing. Yeah. Okay, I can see you all now.
And you take the spotlight out.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're ready.
So 1, 2, 3, smile. Hi, lovely. There are many today. Okay, good. Then I will send this screenshot to our different members of this network and educational program. Okay, then. So, oops, sorry. I will share again the presentation to leave the floor to our next speaker. Now we have the national experience for this topic. So Mr. Jackson Joel Martinez, he's a dynamic entrepreneur and dedicated environmental advocate based in Belmopan City. He is the founder and owner of Scorpion Auto Service and Parts that specialize in the recovery and reuse of vehicle parts from end-of-cycle vehicles. Today, his company diverts a significant amount of automotive waste from landfills by ensuring that up to 80% of vehicle materials are reused and this recycling waste association, Mr. Martinez brings practical insight and entrepreneurial drive to the national conversation on sustainable waste management. His work exemplifies how local innovation can lead to both environmental preservation and economic opportunity. So we are super glad to have you here, Mr. Martinez, and the floor is yours now.
Thank you, everybody. Good morning, good evening. The Belize Recyclers and Waste Management primary goal is to unify private and public sector stakeholders to foster effective collaboration in the recycling and waste management sector. By bringing together diverse voices and expertise, the Belize Recyclers and Waste Management aims to drive innovation, share best practice, and promote sustainable waste management solutions that will benefit all of Belize. Good morning. My name is Jackson Martinez. I will be explaining more about the association, on how it came about and what are our main objectives and goals. So first of all, from the dawn of time, humanity was called to live in harmony with the land and sea. But all is not lost. The earth is resilient, and with collective effort, restoration is within our reach. Yet our pursuit of progress and modern convenience, we have strayed from the scared balance. The very environment that once sustained us is now burdened by the weight of our neglect. Next slide, please. Development is essential, but it must evolve. We must now walk a path where growth is guided by environmental responsibilities. One of the most impactful ways to drive this transformation is through sustainable waste management. By managing our waste wisely, we safeguard the health and prosperity of our future generation. This simply means that with new buildings, new infrastructure comes waste, and we have to know how to manage this waste properly, because it will not only affect the country or the region, but it affects us globally. Here in Belize, we are laying the groundwork for a greener future. The government has enacted progressive legislation, businesses are embracing circular design, and the public is being encouraged to adopt the 3Rs: reduce, reuse, recycle. These steps are vital, but we are still on the journey. Next slide, please. Despite the framework in place, the reality on the ground tells a different story. In Belize City, across the Keys, and in rural areas, waste often lines the street and clogs our drain. Overflowing bins and illegal dumping remain. Policy must be prepared with public. Next slide, please. In 2023, we began consultation to form the association, which in 2024, we established the Belize Recyclers and Waste Management. It was the first, and it's the first organization of its kind, a nonprofit waste management organization in the region. It's the first in Belize, and it's the first in the Caribbean. With the organization dedicated to advancing sustainable and efficient waste management practice, born out of a collaboration and shared vision for impact, the Belize Recyclers and Waste Management provide a platform for the private sector to unite, not only to advocate for the industry, but also to collaborate efficiently with government and the civil societies organizations. Next slide, please. Our foundation was made possible through the UK government, the OCCP, with British High Commissioner to Belize gradually serving as our inaugural of the environment, the support of the expertise waste recycling environment network. Mostly important, the Belize recyclers and waste management was built by passionate recyclers, waste workers, distributors, and environmental advocates, people who believe in a greener and more sustainable future for Belize. Next slide. Regional leadership and knowledge sharing. In April 7th and 8th in April, the Belize Recycler Waste Management took an advocacy to the regional stage. I had the honor of representing the association at a specialized training on end-of-life of vehicle, ELVs, in Trinidad and Tobago. The workshop organized by the Basel Convention under the GRI-founded island program focused on environmentally sound management, ESM, of ELVs, and it's an urgent and critical issue across the Caribbean. Improper handling of LVs pose significant threats, from leaking hazard fluids to illegal dumping and vehicle shells. The workshop empowered us with the tools and insight to design national solutions aligned with the Basel, Stockholm, and Minamata Convention. It was a proud moment for the Belize recyclers and waste management, a step forward for Belize. Next slide, please. The Belize Recyclers and Waste Management stands for more than just waste collection. We champion a circular economy where materials are reused, repurposed, and reimagined as a resource. We believe that waste is not the end, but the beginning of something new. Next slide. This transition demands cross-sector collaboration. Government, private industries, and communities must come together to reimagine waste not as a problem, but as a catalyst for innovation, employment, and sustainability. Our members are already playing a vital role. We plan to amplify their impact through nationwide public awareness campaign, school outreach programs, and community-driven initiatives. Together, we are fostering the next generation of environmental leaders. Next slide, please. Why waste management matter? It matters because public health is a serious issue to everybody. Sanitation is health. Managing waste reduces diseases, especially those spread by mosquitoes and rodents. Clean environments protect our people. Economic growth and green jobs. From collection of recycling to upcycling, the sector is ripe with opportunities. Every bottle, every can, every discarded item represents a potential income, innovation, and local resource recovery. Environmental preservation. Our rivers, creeks, reefs, rainforests suffer when waste is mismanaged. Proper disposal safeguard biodiversity and preserve our natural beauty. Climate action. Organic waste in landfills emit methane, a harmful greenhouse gas. By recycling and composting, we contribute directly to Belize's climate goals. Next slide. National image and civic pride. Clean communities attract investment and inspire pride. Belize global identity as a pristine, eco-friendly destination depends on how we manage our waste. Next slide, please. Current challenges and the road ahead. As a young association, we face resources constrained, infrastructure and systems still need to be developed. But we are undeterred. We support every initiative we can, including recent participation in the Belize Tourism Board event, building on our momentum and digital market summit, where we help green the event and champion sustainable practice. We know that true transformation takes time, but every step forward, every recycled item, every engaged citizen move the country forward. Transformation starts within. And at the Belize Recyclers and Waste Management, we are committed to leading the charge. The association is bringing together recyclers and those interested in the sector through networking and promotional events. We also serve as the respiratory for individuals and organizations driving changes within the recycling sector. The Belize Recycler and Waste Management Association supports and adopts of best practice technologies from around the globe to achieve better recycling outcomes for Belize. Thank you, guys. Next slide. We call on every Belizean, every policymaker, business owner, student, and citizen to see waste management not as a burden, but as an opportunity, a path to a cleaner environment, a stronger economy, and a healthier Belize. Together, we can build a nation where sustainability is second nature, where no waste go to waste, and where our children inherit not a landfill, but a legacy of responsibilities and care. The future is ours to shape. Let's build it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This intervention was amazing because we can now understand better the situation of the Belize Recycling Solid Waste Management Association. So good to have this experience as well, aligned with these international experiences. So now I will leave the floor to Diana so we can go ahead to the questions and answers. Please remind that you can leave your questions on the chat or even in the Q&A section.
Perfect. Thank you, Maria Paula, and thank you to all our presenters today. Maybe I wanted to start with some questions for Dorothy. You mentioned, I found very interesting that you mentioned, well, you made an assessment to see the situation of informal recyclers. And normally, like informal recyclers are reluctant to organize. Like if they're working independently, for instance, in the case of Belize, there's a lot of informality or is still in dump sites, recyclers that work independently, maybe in transfer stations, in other types of infrastructure, or even in streets, in some cases, in very few cases, in streets in towns and cities. And they are very reluctant to organize because they don't see many advantages of working in a group. They see more advantages of working independently, like no strict work hours, having no boss, having flexibility with their own time, being their own boss, being independent. And they are reluctant, and it's hard for them to see all the advantages that has. But you mentioned that in Kenya, you identified with that assessment that informal recyclers or waste pickers did want to support for organizing themselves. Can you share a little bit and speak more about that vision of them? That I find that very interesting. Were there like specific leaders or groups in certain counties that wanted formalization? Can you tell us a little bit more about that process?
Yes, gladly so. So in our case, because we really did not want to interrupt how waste speakers wanted to or were operating. So we went into the dump sites and we went into communities. First was to identify who they are and where they work. The dump sites were the easiest because then we just went there and we found them. The ones that were a bit difficult are the ones who were collecting from the communities. But either way, they still fall within the definition of waste speakers. But what we found is that, okay, they had existing groups, but these groups were not related to any waste picking activities or income or welfare. It was more about table banking. And so our entry point was we did a very good summary of the role of waste pickers, and we also had support from South Africa because South Africa has organized since 1992. And in these small meetings that we're organizing with waste pickers across dump sites, we managed to bring those organized waste pickers from South Africa to come and talk to the waste pickers here in Kenya about those benefits that they have already experienced. It is so challenging, or it would have been challenging in our case, to build a case for why waste pickers needed to organize without having a good example of what those benefits could look like. But having a presenter from South Africa who has organized for years, coming to tell them the benefits of organizing was really, really helpful, because then I remember Simon from South Africa was talking about how they have even gotten national integration guidelines of waste pickers. This is not something that exists or could never have existed, for instance, in Kenya without formalization. That the government now has guidelines for engaging with speakers, that during COVID, where speakers were seen as essential workers and they were being supported to collect waste. So there were very good examples that are coming out from South Africa, and waste speakers in Kenya therefore were intrigued by such examples. They even talked about, now, during that time, waste speakers in Kenya had never engaged in any formal way with the local authorities or national authorities. And rightly so, it's difficult to do that because there are many, and each of them would want to engage with a local representative. And so we told them that if you form an association, it's easy for the local representative to come to you. And that's what we have tried to do, is each time we've organized meetings with waste speakers in different counties, we have brought local authorities to them because it is more organized and they can share their issues in an organized manner with the local representatives. I think some of these things have been very useful. The other thing that we did was, because all of this was always to build trust. In fact, when we were starting, they told us, you're just another NGO, you're coming to talk to us. And many have talked to us, taken photos of us, used us, left us. But we were like, okay, we could try to bring you to all the discussions and any meetings that we had surrounding waste speakers, whether it was during that time Kenya was developing the extended producer responsibility regulations. We assisted them to come to this meeting. We assisted them to go to the plastics treaty negotiations. We assisted them with they attended almost all discussions in regards to policy that related to waste. And over time, that trust was built. So in the beginning, I understand it can be challenging because of trust issues, but over time, it becomes easier if you are consistent with the message. Of course, later on, there are challenges, like you mentioned, with leadership, because sometimes when organizations grow, there are challenges. This person is leading us, this is our treasurer, where is the money? Such developmental challenges happen, but that is why we have really focused on leadership training. I think leadership training is one that has gone, and we keep repeating every year, just for them to understand what is the role of the chairperson, what's the role of the treasurer. It should be easier working together rather than working individually, and what that benefits are. The other thing that I would recommend based on our experiences, there are those that will not want to formalize, because in the dam sites, say one of them, they had about 117 waste speakers, but only 77 joined the association. The rest are like, we don't agree, we don't understand, and that is okay. So here normally there are some waste speakers who will buy into the idea, who will understand the bigger picture, and they will formalize, but also leaving space for those who do not want to continue with their work if they prefer to go that way. Sorry for taking too long with the response.
Definitely, no problem. Thank you so much for all your thoughts. That's very interesting. I'm receiving some questions here in the Q&A and also in the chat, so I'm going to go to those from Shanae Gillette. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. My apologies if I'm not. For the project of Ms. Ferreira, where does the composting occur, on private land or government land? And are there gas meters available on it to ensure the safety of the personnel?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Yes, of course. It says, for your project, where does the composting occur? On private land or government land? And are there gas meters available on it to ensure the safety of the personnel?
Okay. Basically, the waste pickers cooperatives normally have their own land, but most of them has received their land from funds like national funds and lost funds that they have already gained. But the majority of the areas are like from them, like they have already.
Perfect. Thank you, Lais. And from our same participant for the project in Kenya, I want to sincerely commend her for job well done. I also believe empowering waste speakers plays a significant role in helping them feel more valued and appreciated in the important work they do. And related to that comment, I also saw one on the chat from Mr. Robert Purnell saying, organizing waste speakers is something that I had no idea was being done. It should be something that should start in Belize, and there's a lot of likes and hearts to that comment. And we've already shared, he also asked for contact information for Mr. Martinez's organization, which we've provided in the chat. Maybe to continue a little bit on that many of us or many people maybe aren't aware of these efforts of organizing recyclers. I've also worked actually with informal recycling back in Colombia, where I'm originally from, where it was more at the national level, where all the tariff structure and the fees that people pay are also now available for organizations or recyclers that build associations or build cooperatives to receive that payment, so that you allow them to have an income besides selling the materials and doing other things, but also having an additional income that's also because they're doing a waste service to the community. And on that, maybe on the case of Brazil, which is a little different, where it's not about the fee that's paid by the generators, but also about the contracts and how they are allowing organizations of recyclers to go and sign those contracts that provide those services. Maybe I wanted to ask a little bit more regarding that to Lais. And like as I was talking with the case of Kenya, that building that capacity on previous informal recyclers is always kind of challenging, as Dorothy was mentioning, like getting them to understand, like, okay, now that we're organized, who's the treasurer, how the money's managed, who's going to lead, all of those things. So it's a process of building that capacity and organizing them to work together. And I understand that, as you mentioned, there's the organizations can access these contracts directly to provide services of recycling. What are the requirements that these organizations of recyclers have to comply with to be able to access those contracts? Or are there any incentives for them to do it instead of having or the private sector involved in those activities instead of the organizations of recyclers?
I'm talking a little about the organizations in Brazil. This is the most, I don't know, one of the most challenges that we have right now, because we try to make the municipalities believe that they can like actually hiring waste pickers to do the waste management, and not only the collection of dry recyclables, but also this work with organics. So something that we face with this is that normally the waste pickers cooperatives needs to be like legally registered as a cooperative or a non-profit association. Also have like a national cadastre here in Brazil, and also demonstrate like they have the technical capacity and operational infrastructure to do this kind of treatment. But we are trying to remove some barriers, especially like policy barriers, because we know that here composting in Brazil right now have some license barriers, but because of the environmental impact. But we know that composting doesn't have like a huge environmental impact in the areas. So what we try to do is to manage this license and authorizations from the local environmental agency, from the municipality. So we try to build this conversation in a local term, because nationally it's still a little complex and confused, but we can like talk to the local environmental agency and try to make this license to composting disposable for the waste picker cooperative.
Yeah, I found that very interesting when you mentioned that as well on the licensing. And regarding the quality of the compost that's being produced, Lais, you mentioned, of course, like the difference between the waste that comes mixed and mechanical biological treatment facilities, where the compost quality is not the same as when it comes source separated. And you mentioned also that there are some testing and standards. Could you speak a little bit more to that in Brazil? How does that work? Are there national composting standards? And how is that lower quality compost used, and who buys it when it's not as high quality as you would want for agriculture, for instance?
Yeah, for sure. Here in Brazil, we have a decree that established a technical and quality standard to compost, so that can also be classified as a organic fertilizer. So this decree defines some types of organic fertilizer and like had some outlines, some parameters, yes, parameters to this, such as maximum limits for heavy metals, pathogen indicators, absence of physical contaminants. So the like every compost or fertilizer can need to have this kind of standards to be sold and to be used and registered as a fertilizer, like to be used in application in other types of soils in the municipality. And normally the use of this compost in the market is from farmers, like most of farmers used to buy. But what we're trying to improve at that the compost that is produced by the municipality or the waste picker cooperative could be used in the garden of the municipality. So to use in parks, in public parks or public streets, something like this.
Perfect. And then it's bought by the municipality from the associations, or is just used for free?
Normally it's just used because the income to the waste pickers comes from the contract, like what we try.
Okay.
It's the income that comes from the sold of the compost is not sufficiency to maintain all the work. So like the contract is already like is in the contract, this kind of stuff. So they deal with the organic and sometimes the compost can be used in the municipality gardening.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, we have a couple of minutes left on the session. I have more questions, but I don't want to abuse of your time. Let me see if we have anything else on the chat. There's one last question. The organic waste picked or separated for both cases includes cooked food?
In Brazil, yes.
And for
Because
Kenya?
we are because
Sorry,
we are talking in a large scalable of possible.
In Kenya as well.
Perfect. And another question is how, for Kenya, one question about the black soldier fly. How does that work? If you can explain very briefly, Dorothy. And what's the purpose of the black soldier fly?
Thank you. Okay, so this is a very interesting, we get a lot of interest on this. It's so black soldier flies are viewed as an alternative source of protein for fish feed and chicken feed, but they're also very important in converting organic waste into frass. Sometimes we call it manure because whatever remains is very fine, and you can also use it as a compost or as a manure. So in that sense, when we are composting, I want to say composting organic waste using these flies, it means that we get two things. We get compost out of it, and then we get the larvae of the worms, the larvae of the black soldier flies, which are then fed to chicken and fed to fish. So fish feed and chicken feed. So this is important. And these flies exist in the environment, and they come maybe in another session we can discuss how we get them. But then once they start to feed on it, after 14 days, we extract the larvae, like what we saw in the bucket, and that is what is dried and given to fish feed. So this is another area of opportunity that's becoming really emerging and important in the country insofar as organic waste management is concerned. It goes hand in hand. While one section, they'll focus on composting only, the other section, they could focus also on black soja fly. And this way we can also try to maximize the conversion and mitigation of methane emissions.
Thank you, Dorothy. Yeah, and then to add that that's another way of having a different byproduct, not compost, but this animal feed that can be used in maybe places where the compost doesn't have a market and you don't have the agricultural sector where you could sell that compost locally. If you do have, feedstock or animals, an industry, agro industry that does have a feedstock, then you can use that as a product to sell in that industry, and you have a better price if you don't have like a compost market now. So thank you for that question, Joyce. Perfect. So thank you so much. As I said, I have so many questions, but let's go to the close of the session, and I'll then leave the floor to Maria Paula to do that. We have a final exercise, and then we'll wrap up. Go ahead, Maria Paula.
Yeah, thank you. So now, if you could please scan this QR code, or you can enter in the mentimeter.com or menti.com website, and then you can enter this code that is 48817079. So this is trying to wrap up all the sessions and also trying to understand if we learned something new from today, that we assume that we learn a lot. So from these international experiences, as well as the association experience in Belize. So please, I hope you could all join in this QR code. I will stop sharing 1 second. Says it's menti.com. So I will leave this information also in the chat to wrap up everything, and I will leave the code. Give me just 1 second. So I will present now, and we can all start participating in this Menti. Okay, then present. Can you see my old screen? Oh, wow. Yes, now?
Yes.
Yeah, good. So it's quiz time. No wrong answers. Well, there are wrong answers, but it's just for fun and trying to remind what the different figures or data that Dorothy, Lais, but also Mr. Martinez has shared with us. So let's start. We have 4 questions. First question, we'll start. We have 6 players. Do you need more time to log in or something? I can wait a little more.
You can go to menti.com and enter the code 48817079, or use the QR code. Take a picture and it'll take you directly to the quiz, so you can participate.
Yeah, and this is kind of a quiz where you will be obtaining more points if you respond faster. So let's now check how many of us are now and how much we learn about this, the work of the waste pickers and the crucial role that they're implementing in the different countries. So 8 players now. So we will start 9 players, not 10. So we will start with the first question now. That is, an important impact of waste pickers' work is, and you should select only one, that it's the correct one. So one response. 5 seconds. Hurry up. Ha. One is out of the career of this rice. Okay. So 5 people has reduced the financial burdens associated with waste management. That is the important impact of this waste picker work. So this is the correct answer. We Next one, second question. 8 players. Now, faster the best. Which of the following is not recommended action to improve waste picker capacity? So only one question again. Check all the answers. I don't want to distract you. 3, 2, 1. Run! Good. So 6 positive responses or correct responses, that is provide financial incentives for using landfill. This is not recommended to improve waste pickers' capacity to manage organic waste. So, third question, let's check. How many tons of organic waste were recovered in 2023 in Brazil? 2 options. 50% of chance that you can win. Let's check. 8 responses. Everyone has voted. So, 50 and 50. But the correct answer is 0.16 million tons of organic waste. Good. And the last one. Don't lose your expectations of winning. Come on. What services can waste picker cooperatives provide in partnership with municipalities? 50% of possibilities that you can win now. Come on, come on. Everyone has voted. So we ended this race. Composting organic waste is the correct answer. So now we will check who is the winner. Let's check. Good. So yeah, is a winner for today. Good. Second position for Lais, and third position for Metal. Okay, who is Metal? Good job. Well done to the winner. Well done, Diana. Wait a second. And we really enjoy this Menti, but also the session. Again, many thanks to Lais, to Dorothy, and to Mr. Martinez. Your experiences were highly valuable for us. We are in the sixth session of the Network Educational Program. That is part of the Recycling Organic program that we are developing in many countries and now is in Belize. And also we are working hardly with the different cities and towns in developing organic waste management plans. So Belize has a good commitment for waste management, mainly organic waste management. And this is one of the steps trying to build capacity building in the community and also governmental authorities. So now it's time to share my last slide. To thank you all, but also it's a reminder for you to meet us next month, the 4th Wednesday of the month, that is the 23rd of July. We will have this meeting between 10:30 a.m. up to 12 p.m. Belize time, and we will talk more about the waste fee structures. That was one of the topics that were needed from our last, or what we could understood from our last in-person workshop. So we are going to talk more about waste fee structures and how cities and towns can start updating the ones that they have, but also structure a sustainable fee structure. So thank you
We
all.
are not seeing the slide of the event, so but if you can share like just the date question in the chat on when and what time that should be the last week of next month, so July. Last week of July,
exactly.
Wednesday.
23rd, sorry. Good. This is our last slide. Okay, I will share with you the the information of the session, July 2025. So many thanks. We hope you enjoyed this session and it was super insightful for us. Thank you to our speakers, international speakers and national ones, for joining us today. Best of lucks.
Thank
See
you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
Joyce. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, guys.